Welcome to the Bookworm Duo, where we explore a variety of books. Let's get started. So today we're doing a deep dive into Graydon Carter's When the Going Was Good, an editor's adventures in the last golden age of magazines.
It's basically a memoir, right? Taking us chronologically through his life, but really focused on, well, the magazine world.
Exactly. And our plan really is to unpack the big moments as they happen in the book, highlight those key events, the people, the surprises he ran into.
Okay, so where does he kick things off? It's not right at the beginning of his life, is it?
No, actually, it throws you right in. May 2005. Carter and his wife, Anna, they're literally just back from their honeymoon. Bahamas, I think.
Oh, nice. Sounds relaxing.
Oh, yeah, but that relaxation gets shattered pretty quick. Because Vanity Fair is about to drop this massive scoop.
Ah, right, the deep throat revelation.
Yeah.
W. Mark felt that was huge.
Totally huge. And the book opens with this incredible pressure cooker moment. It's personal honeymoon colliding head on with this massive professional event.
That's quite a contrast, right? It really sets the tone. And he describes this frantic effort, you know, racing the clock to get confirmation from Woodward and Bernstein before their story could break.
Wow. So it wasn't just announcing it was a real journalistic scramble.
Oh, yeah. He talks about David Friend, one of his colleagues, having to fly out and meet Felt in person.
And Felt's family was involved too.
Mm-hmm. His daughter and grandson played key roles, apparently, in confirming everything.
Mm-hmm.
Carter even mentions clues that were kind of hidden in Felt's own autobiography years before.
Like a detective story playing out behind the scenes of the magazine.
Pretty much. And imagine the
Yes.
stress. All this is happening while Carter and Anna are trying to leave for their first night of married life at the Mayflower Inn.
You're kidding. How did they even manage?
It gets better. Or worse, depending on how you look at it. Fran Lebowitz, of all people, apparently showed up needing a ride right as they were trying to leave.
No way. That's such a New York detail.
Isn't it? It perfectly captures that blend of high-stakes journalism and just weirdly specific, chaotic life stuff.
So the wedding itself, did it
No.
actually happen amidst all this?
It did. He mentions Harry Benson, the photographer, was there shooting it. And the wedding band, get this, was Otis Day and the Knights.
From Animal House
Seriously.
as a wedding gift, can you imagine? Quite the party, I guess.
Definitely memorable. So after that explosive start, he goes back right to the beginning.
Yeah, he rewinds quite a bit. Takes us back to his childhood in Ottawa, Canada, which is obviously pretty crucial for understanding where he came from.
What was that like? What shaped him early on?
Well, he describes his father as having a series of different career attempts. Some didn't pan out so well.
Like what?
There's a story about a Parker pen shop he shared with a rat poison maker. That didn't last long. Eventually, his dad went back to the Air Force, which seemed more stable.
Okay, so maybe a bit of financial unpredictability there.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But alongside that, family life seemed quite, well, cultured in its own way. Lots of skiing, golf, sailing, and these bridge games.
Bridge games. Yeah, with these friends, Ian and Nina McLennan, Carter mentions they were quite sophisticated and a big influence on him, exposed him to a wider world.
Interesting. And he includes more personal stuff too, right? Little anecdotes.
Oh, yeah. He talks about his dad's drinking, specifically rye whiskey, and his own attempts as a kid to siphon some off. Makes it feel very real, you know?
Yeah, those details ground it. And growing up Canadian, hockey must feature.
Absolutely. It's Canada. He talks about playing Pee Wee League, meeting Gordie Howe, classic stuff.
So sports, family life, any early signs of the future editor, cultural interests?
Definitely.
Yeah.
He mentioned sneaking out with a friend, Dave Caldbick, to this coffee house called Lehibu. They'd listen to jazz and folk music.
Ah, okay. So a bit of youthful rebellion and artistic curiosity.
Seems like it. And he also mentions a weird fascination they had with Dave's dad's medical books, the graphic pictures and all.
Huh. Kids are weird.
Tell me about it. And general childhood mischief with another friend, Bruce McLennan. Faking bus tickets, swimming naked at the YMCA. Sounds like a pretty normal, if adventurous, boyhood.
And his mother. Did she encourage any particular path?
She encouraged his artistic side, he says. And he flags two books specifically as being huge influences on his dreams, Moss Hart's Act One and Herman Wouk's Young Bloodhawk.
Interesting. So seeds of ambition were planted early. What about actual work? Did he jump straight into writing?
Not quite. He talks about some early, less than glamorous jobs first, like a summer as a gopher at a Christian summer camp.
How did that go?
Hilariously badly, apparently. He misunderstood what housewarming gifts meant for the boys' bunks and ended up causing a panic during an inspection. Something about contraband, I think.
Oh, dear. A lesson learned, maybe.
Maybe. And then a really stark contrast. A stint as a railway lineman out on the Saskatchewan prairie.
Wow, that sounds tough.
He makes it sound absolutely grueling. Back-breaking work in the middle of nowhere. He was desperate to get out of there. Really emphasizes his drive to find something different.
Yeah, I can see how that would motivate you. So what came next? A more intellectual path.
Kind of unexpectedly, yes. He somehow got recruited by the Canadian government as a consultant.
A consultant. On what? He didn't have that kind of background, did he?
Exactly. He was tasked with writing a report on the government's computer system, having, like, zero experience with computers. He credits a mentor, Bob Hixt, with helping him through.
That's incredible. Talk about learning on the job.
Right. And from there, he finally pivots towards publishing. He got involved with the Canadian Review.
Ah, okay, his first real magazine gig.
Yeah, he became its editor.
Yeah.
And that's when he started using the byline E. Graydon Carter, apparently to sound older and more distinguished.
A classic move. Was it successful?
Well, it was a constant struggle. Financially, things were always tight. He mentions tensions, even a lawsuit from the volunteer poetry editor. Doesn't sound easy.
Small magazines often are. How did they try to make money?
He tried various things. Speech writing for some businessman. He and another guy, John Darran, apparently kicked around some truly wild business ideas. Like Pope on a rope. Soap on a rope, but, Pope shape.
Seriously, Pope on a rope. Okay, that's memorable.
Isn't it? It paints a picture of this slightly chaotic, hustling period. There's another funny story about him and Jonathan Webb going to the 1976 Democratic National Convention in New York.
What happened there?
They stayed in a hotel with those old servitor things, the little hatches in the door. Theirs didn't work, leading to some kind of farcical situation, just another bump in the road.
So lots of learning experiences, some quite funny, and then the big move, right, to New York.
Yeah, that was the goal. He applied to Time Inc., got rejected initially.
Ouch.
But he kept at it, eventually got a meeting with Ray Cave, and that worked out. Landed a job at Time magazine.
Finally made it. What was that like, arriving in New York, working at Time?
He describes finding an apartment in Greenwich Village through the Time Inc. newsletter, getting a Brooks Brothers credit card. Like symbols of having arrived.
Yeah, I get that. And the work itself.
He was a desk-bound writer. He talks about the really tough editing process, this specific style they call Timese.
Yeah.
Very rigorous, and a constant fear of making factual errors.
Sounds intense. What about the office culture?
Pretty unique. He mentions Friday, closing dinners with wine, lots of expense lunches and dinners. Sounds like a certain kind of old-school corporate glamour.
A different world. Did he fit right in?
He seems to have adapted. He shared some interesting observations, though, like, in retrospect, realizing he should have bought Keith Haring's art when it was cheap.
Hindsight.
Totally. And being shocked at the price of an apartment in the Café des Artistes building, which sounds laughably low now. Yeah. $43,000.
Unbelievable. He was also developing his own style, right? I remember reading about a suit.
Oh, yeah. Getting a bespoke suit made at Anderson and Shepherd in London. He talks about interacting with the tailor, Mr. Halsey. It suggests a growing sophistication, maybe.
Yeah, moving up in the world. And personally. Relationships.
His long-distance thing with Kate in Ottawa ended. Then a shorter relationship with someone named Deb Thompson. Life moving on,
Sure. And friendship seemed important, too.
Definitely. He organized this elaborate surprise black-tie dinner for a colleague, Jim Gaines. There was a funny mix-up involving Laurence Olivier, apparently.
Always some drama.
And he really admired a couple, Henry and Louise Malhado, and their dinner parties. Seems like he learned a lot about navigating the New York social and cultural scene from people like them.
Soaking it all in. But he didn't stay at Time forever.
No, he realized his long-term prospects there were maybe limited. He actually had a brief, apparently miserable stint living out in Westchester. Hated being away from the city.
So, back to Manhattan.
Yep. He returned and got assigned to Life magazine, which was struggling a bit at the time.
Okay, Life. But that wasn't the main event, was it? Wasn't something else brewing?
Exactly. This is where Spy magazine comes in. He and Kurt Anderson started cooking up this idea.
Oh, Spy! Legendary stuff. What was the spark?
Basically, a desire to satirize the massive egos and the whole scene in New York at the time. The rich, the powerful, the famous.
Taking the mickey out of them?
Totally. He even set up a sort of secret spy home base in his Life magazine office to work on it discreetly.
That's bold.
And he and Kurt would brainstorm ideas in the Time Inc. cafeteria. Things like things found in the East River, the 10 most annoying New Yorkers. You get the vibe immediately.
Oh, yeah. Sharp, funny, kind of mean.
Wickedly mean sometimes. They obviously worked on the formal proposal for Spy, of all places, a quiet Shaker village up in the Berkshires.
The irony. Did they get funding?
They did. Got some early investors on board, and Spy launched in the fall of '86.
Perfect timing, right? Mid-'80s New York.
Could have been better. Wall Street boomed, huge egos, crazy excess.
Mm-hmm.
It was a goldmine for satire.
And they nailed the tone, didn't they? That kind of detached, judgmental voice.
Absolutely. He calls it bemused detachment, witheringly judgmental, inspired by stuff like the British magazine Private Eye and even some early-time writing styles.
It was so distinctive. He mentions the staff.
Yeah, gives credit to key people. And the look of the magazine, too. The art direction, especially those floating heads, those often unflattering cutout photos, very Spy.
So iconic. But it didn't last forever under their control.
No. Eventually, it was acquired by Charles Sachaï and Johnny Roberts.
Yeah.
And that led to clashes.
Right.
Different ideas about what the magazine should be.
The classic story. So that led him elsewhere.
Yep. He moved over to edit the New York Observer. But then, kind of out of the blue, came the big one, the offer to edit Vanity Fair.
Wow. That's the top job, pretty much. Was it a smooth transition?
Not exactly smooth. He had to keep the Vanity Fair offer super secret. They apparently used the code word pencil. And leaving the Observer was awkward. The owner, Arthur Carter, no relation, was reportedly furious. He ended up drafting the press release about his own departure at Tina Brown's apartment. She was the previous Vanity Fair editor.
Talk about high drama. And he hadn't even started yet.
Right, and there were already rumors swirling that he'd be fired before he even put out an issue. Plus, he apparently had some lingering immigration status issues adding to the stress.
Jeez. Welcome to the big leagues. What were the offices like when he arrived?
He describes walking in and seeing Tina Brown's wall of fame, all her covers and successes. One of the first things he did was have it taken down. Symbolic move.
Setting his own tone. But it must have been daunting, filling that magazine every month.
Immense pressure. He said there weren't many great stories ready to go in the pipeline initially. And there was this bizarre mystery about anonymous notes being left about naked men in the office.
What? That's odd.
Very odd. But he did find a key ally quickly. The managing editor, Chris Garrett. Carter really credits him with helping navigate those early days.
That partnership sounds crucial. And he had to dive into a whole new world too, right? Fashion.
Oh, yeah. Suddenly, he's editor of Vanity Fair. He has to go to the fashion shows, figure out that whole scene. He recounts this slightly awkward dinner at Karl Lagerfeld's place with Claudia Schiffer and Cindy Crawford.
Dropped right into the deep end.
Totally. But there are human moments, too, like his young son Spike's very funny, very negative reaction to having to wear a suit and tie for school. Keeps it grounded.
It's quite the contrast, isn't it? From the scrappy Spy days to the, well, luxury of Condé Nast.
Huge contrast. He talks about the sheer extravagance of expense accounts back then. It really was a different era in magazine publishing. More money flowing, it seems.
But not always easy personalities.
No, he mentions dealing with some difficult people, like the style director Marina Schiano. It wasn't all smooth sailing internally.
But overall, the vibe changed when he took over.
He suggests the morale improved. And he made some really key hires early on, bringing in writers like Christopher Hitchens and Brian Burrow.
That definitely signaled a focus on serious writing, didn't it? Alongside the glitz.
Exactly. He wanted substance. And over time, that roster of contributors became incredible top writers. Photographers like Annie Leibovitz, illustrators. Vanity Fair became a real powerhouse.
And he started moving in some seriously high-profile circles. Any standout stories there?
Well, there's the anecdote about getting Christmas gifts from Tom Cruise that included Scientology tenants.
Wow. Okay.
Just a little glimpse into that Hollywood world. He also gives some background on the Newhouse family who owned Condé Nast and Cy Newhouse's vision.
Cy Newhouse seems like such a pivotal figure in that world.
Absolutely. Carter describes securing exclusive rights through Cy to exhibit this lost collection of Impressionist paintings from the Hermitage Museum in Russia. A massive cultural coup for the magazine.
He definitely raises the profile beyond celebrity stuff. Did he and C get along well?
They had regular lunches, Carter says. He describes Cy's passions, his leadership style. But Carter also admits he always felt like he might get fired, even when the magazine was doing really well.
That pressure must have been immense. Did they ever disagree?
Oh, yeah. He mentioned Cy floated the idea of making Vanity Fair a weekly magazine at one point, which Carter disagreed with, Sy was apparently very deliberate about pairing editors with publishers.
Sounds like a complex relationship. Did Carter have a guiding philosophy for the magazine?
He mentions learning a lot about cover lines, those
Mm.
crucial bits of text on the cover, from a guy named Don Sipple. And his main focus was always on the individual reader, trying to create something compelling for them.
And he was very hands-on.
Extremely meticulous about editing. And he famously wrote personal thank you notes to contributors for every piece. That kind of touch means a lot.
It really does. Builds loyalty. He also had some funny rules for surviving Condé Nast.
Yeah, some tongue-in-cheek advice for navigating this specific corporate culture there.
And he brought in people who became important later, right? Like Dana Brown.
Yes, hired him as an assistant. Brown went on to become a key editor there, and later deputy editor. There's a wild story about Dana being accidentally seated next to Georgette Mossbacher at a dinner. Oh, yeah. And missing a chance to ask Lee Radziwill, who was also nearby, about Jackie Kennedy, because he was stuck talking about, like, cosmetics or something. One of those missed moments.
The agony. So the Hollywood connection became really important for Vanity Fair, obviously.
Huge. He talks about attending the Oscars, going to Irving Lazar's super exclusive after party, learning the complex social rules of Hollywood.
Power dynamics must be intense there.
Definitely. He mentions the rise and fall of Michael Ovitz, who was massively powerful for a time. He hired Wendy Stark as the West Coast editor to navigate all that.
And he encountered some legendary Hollywood figures.
Oh, yeah. Sue Mengers, the agent. He describes his initial meetings with her and a final kind of poignant interaction at a pre-Oscar party hosted by Brian Lord.
She was quite the character, by all accounts.
Yeah.
Any other memorable Hollywood moments?
Well, his friendship with the producer Sandy Gallen, going around looking at real estate with him, and then the almost impossible task of tracking down the notoriously difficult director Abel Ferrara for a photo shoot.
Sounds like a headache.
Probably was. And back in New York, those dreaded print order meetings with Cy Newhouse, where they decided how many copies to print. Always high stakes.
But the Vanity Fair Oscar party became the party, didn't it, under Carter?
It really did. He describes his process, greeting everyone himself, managing the guest list, and the aftermath, the mop-up meeting, and apparently rampant theft of everything from coat check tickets to centerpieces.
Huh. People stealing stuff from the Vanity Fair party?
Apparently so. Another interesting move was making Monica Lewinsky a contributing editor.
That was controversial, surely.
It was definitely talked about, but he frames it as giving her a platform to, tell her own story, move beyond the scandal.
And he tried to balance work and family.
Yeah, he mentions often taking his family on work trips, like to the Cannes Film Festival. He had a philosophy about valuing family time over school time sometimes.
Makes sense given the demands. Any other notable encounters or decisions from that era?
Hosting Princess Margaret at his apartment in the Dakota Building in New York. That's pretty up there.
Yeah, just casually hosting royalty.
And his decision to ban Harvey Weinstein from the Oscar party and his restaurants.
Yeah.
Well before the major public revelations. That stands out now.
Definitely. He also worked with some incredible writers.
Giants. Michael Herr, David Halberstam. He clearly revered them, and he was observing shifts in culture, too, the rise of tech, a new kind of establishment.
And Annie Leibovitz, of course, their collaboration was iconic.
Absolutely central to the magazine's image. Those huge, fold-out Hollywood issue group portraits, that was them, pure Vanity Fair.
They really defined an era. What about politics? He got involved with the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
He did, and that brings up his long-running feud with Donald Trump.
Yes, the short-fingered vulgarian comment from Spy.
Exactly. That comment, made decades earlier, clearly stuck with Trump and colored their interactions for years. It really shows how words can linger.
No kidding. Did his personal life shift again later on?
Yeah, he mentions moving back downtown with Cynthia, who he describes as having a passion for renovation and health, a different phase.
And the magazine kept tackling big stories.
Oh, yes. Nick Pileggi wrote extensively about the O.J. Simpson trial for them, which apparently caused some family tensions for Pileggi.
I can imagine. And Christopher Hitchens continued to be a major voice.
Absolutely. Became even more prominent as a commentator. Carter shares some great Hitchens anecdotes, getting him the kosher meal at an exclusive club, trying to get him freshened up by the fashion department during a rough patch.
Sounds like quite the character.
But also a brilliant journalist. Carter highlights his serious reporting, like the Kissinger profile, and Marie Brenner do huge investigative pieces of the tobacco industry Enron. Really impactful work.
So it wasn't just fluff, and there were other characters. T.D. Allman.
Yeah, described as this eccentric foreign correspondent. Seems like the magazine attracted some unique personalities.
Carter even acted a bit.
Tiny cameos in films, yeah.
Yeah.
Just another thread in his very varied life. Became friends with Bob Evans, the legendary producer. Assigned Rich Cohen to write a profile of him.
Kind of passing the torch, chronicling that old Hollywood.
Yeah. And he got involved beyond magazines, too. Co-produced a Broadway revival of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Became a co-owner of the Waverly Inn restaurant.
Expanding his empire. Did world events shift the magazine's focus? Like 9/11?
Definitely. He talks about an editorial shift after 9/11, becoming more critical, especially regarding the Iraq War. The magazine reflected the changing times. Even the Irish financial crash got covered via restaurant reviews by A.A. Gill.
Interesting angle. As his tenure went on, any other notable challenges or moments?
He mentions dealing with reader mail, including a particularly funny, angry letter from Jerry and Barbara Bruckheimer,
Huh. Must have hit a nerve.
and navigating difficult relationships with certain writers, like Alex Cockburn. Managing egos is always part of the job, I guess.
And the Trump feud just kept going.
That short-figured vulgarian thing really had legs. It never quite went away.
Incredible. What about tougher journalistic calls? He mentions Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, that's a significant one. He assigned Ward just to profile Epstein way back in 2002. They apparently heard rumors about sexual impropriety even then, but couldn't get on the record confirmation, so they couldn't report it fully. A really difficult ethical situation.
Hindsight makes those decisions look different, but at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did the magazine face legal challenges?
Oh, yes. Liable suits are a risk in that business. He mentions a big one brought by Mohammed Al-Fayed after a Maureen Orth article, and another complex case involving Roman Polanski. Stressful stuff.
I bet. On a lighter note, how did he handle things like the Met Gala?
He describes having a specific routine just to survive it. It sounds like an ordeal. Praises Anna Wintour's efficiency in running it, though.
She's legendary for that. And speaking of Wintour, there were changes at Condé Nast towards the end of his time.
Yes, Cy Newhouse had a succession plan, and Anna Wintour's role expanded significantly. The guard was changing.
And Carter eventually left Vanity Fair. What did he do next?
He launched his own digital venture, Airmail. Went back to his entrepreneurial roots, in a way, secured some key advertisers right off the bat. Still in the media game.
Still going. Does he touch on any personal passions?
Mentions his lifelong love of cars. And describes the Airmail offices located in this grand townhouse in Greenwich Village. Sounds very Graydon Carter.
Fits the image. And the book wraps up with some reflections.
Yeah, he includes some rules for living at the end. Little bits of wisdom or observation.
Like what?
Things like the importance of wishing other people well, the surprising usefulness of always having a pocket square, that kind of thing.
Huh. Okay. And acknowledgments.
Yes, recognizing the people who influenced him throughout his career and life, it brings it back to the personal journey.
So overall, this deep dive into the memoir, it really paints a picture, doesn't it? Not just glamour, but the real grit behind it all.
Absolutely. The hustle, the personalities, the shifts in media and culture over decades. It's a fascinating look at that specific world during, well, like the title says, a time when the going was good for magazines, perhaps in a way it isn't now.
A unique perspective on a really significant era. We hope you found exploring these key moments from Carter's journey as interesting as we did.
It definitely gives you a lot to think about regarding media, fame, and how that whole world operates, or at least how it used to operate.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe for more bookish adventures and hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to share the knowledge, spread the word.